and SP5, paragraph 3 of the emerging local plan and paragraph 70 of the NPPF. The benefits arising from the long-term use of the building are not considered to outweigh the loss of the community asset. Ground 2. The proposals would also fail to meet Objective 12 of the adopted Staplehurst Neighbourhood Plan, which seeks to support a strong local economy with good access to jobs and employment opportunities.
Do you want to comment,
yeah, if I could comment. The reasons why the Chairman referred to policy it was GW1. Having looked through the neighbourhood plan, the public house is outside the area zoned under GW1, and obviously reading the actual policy criteria, this application wouldn't apply. It also refers to new commercial. This is not new commercial, and therefore my advice to members is that GW1 is not applicable in this instance. I accept the plan in the neighbourhood plan illustrates and gives an illustrative example which shows the public house, but quite clearly the red line zoning area for GW1 is outside this site. So my clear advice is, hence you've seen the grounds of refusal, is not to refer to that particular policy.
I'll buy that if it's necessary. Right, I think we have a proposer and a seconder to refuse. Can I have a show of hands, please? I was the proposer. I moved it from the chair. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
And,
Sorry, Chair.
We'll come back to your point.
Yes, and all it was to capture that point around the fact that there is no reference within the conditions to the use of renewable energy within the new unit, and to capture that.
Do we need a second resolution?
Second resolution to put that into a condition when we defend the appeal, if we do.
We'll have a second separate resolution for that. I think it would probably be easier. Is that okay? Yeah, good. Okay. Can I have a show of hands to refuse, please? Loss of a pub. So that's unanimous, yeah? Okay. So we'll do that, okay?
Let me just write down full delegation.
Right.
To negotiate.
Can you read that out? Yeah. I'm going to ask there's going to be a second resolution which I'll ask Russell to read out.
The second resolution is that in the event of an appeal that the officers are given full delegation to negotiate conditions which shall include conditions relating to renewables.
Okay. I'll propose that from the Chair and seconder for Councillor Harwood. Can I show of hands to that? Excellent. Okay, so I think we're finished on this one. Well and truly finished, including myself. Right. It's just one item, agenda item 15, which is reference 16/4/508545, which is 4 Coulter Paddocks and Bletchendon Road, Hecorn, Kent. Shall I hand over to you? Can I handle this one, Joe? It's not a start, no, unfortunately it's not a start item, but there's nobody there to, I just noticed that, yeah. You don't have to.
You can do it that way if you wish.
It, I'll look to the ward members at the head corner if you're happy with this one. If not, I'll...
No one has objected. Well, ask a question.
Okay.
Effectively forward within the site and erection of a new day building. In terms of... Oh dear, why is this not working? Right, so in terms of the application site, you've got Bletchington Road down here. You've got, effectively, it's a four-plotted authorised G&T site. In this site, members may remember that it sets out in the report you granted a day room, which was slightly larger than the current application in approximately this position here. It had a similar instance where the mobile was moved and the day room was built here. That's currently under construction, and I'll show you the photographs in a minute. This application relates to this site, and you'll see there's very good screening. This mobile home would be moved forward. There'd be still 26 metres between the road edge and the building, and then the new day room would be in this location. So it's approximately the same position as the one that's currently being built. So this is the screening looking westwards. This is in the other direction, so you'll notice there's very good screening around the site. Going into view of plot 4 is this one. The plot you can see is plot 3, so plot 4 is actually behind that. So that's the view. Effectively, the day room would be in this position, and this mobile home would be moved further forward. That's the existing mobile home, the lawful G&T site. That would be moved over here. The day room would be constructed in this position here. That's the back of the site. And so the mobile home would be relocated forward to this position, but in effect, as I said 26 metres, sorry, the report refers to 25 metres, so there'd be a 25-metre gap from effectively the edge of the site to where the mobile home would be in that position, and then there'd be 11-metre gap again between where the new day room would be erected here. So it's still very good screening around the site, and as I said, please remember that an existing day room is being constructed off to the left on plot 1. So this is looking back down the access road. So obviously you've got the mobile home would be approximately this position here with good screening still to the frontage and good separation distance. And again, that is the day room currently being constructed on the site on plot 1. So moving off to the right-hand side on plot 4, that's what members granted planning permission on previously when it previously came to committee. The proposed day room is slightly smaller than that building. Turning to, in terms of the existing block plan, as I said, mobile home would be moved forward. It shows it better in this positioning here. So you've got the new day room erected here and the mobile home, and that's the 25-metre gap, and that's the 11-metre gap. Turning to the proposed, this is the day room. So obviously it's clearly set out in the officer's report. There's no sleeping accommodation in this day room. As again I set out, it's slightly smaller than the one previously approved. You've got a dog area, kitchenette, study, games room, gym, changing room, a shower room, and the day room in this facility here. So need to stress the point, members have previously accepted a bigger building on the site adjacent. Officers need to consider this in the context of harm to the locality. That's how the report has been assessed. Obviously, you're aware there's no SPD that controls size of day rooms within the borough, and therefore, quite clearly, this needs to be assessed in the context of policy and emerging G&T site provision in terms of the adopted local plan, emerging local plan. This is the external appearance of the building. So, as clearly set out, the matters have been addressed in the report. However, the proposals are not considered to appear visually dominant or incongruous in the wider setting of this countryside location and are considered acceptable with regard to landscape impact. Whilst it is acknowledged that the Environment Agency object, again, this is not for an additional pitch, this is for a day room relocation of the existing caravan. In terms of the levels that have been recommended by the EA, they have been set out in the conditions in the report. There will also be controls put on the condition that there shall be no sleeping accommodation, which is obviously the EA's principal concern. It would be unreasonable for members to object, and I use the term unreasonable in terms of how we defend appeals. Please put that in context, not how some members have previously taken it. It would be unreasonable for us to object in terms of the relocation of the caravan, because that's already been granted, and the inspector who granted that knew of the flooding situation at that time. This is a relocation of that caravan, so it would not be reasonable. We have put in other controls to deal with the EA issue. I think the EA issue is a substantive issue because in terms of the MPPF, generally they like to resist caravans effectively in vulnerable locations, but that has already been dealt with from the appeal and been accepted. So members could not go down that route in this application, and on that basis the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, James. Councillor Rand, and then Councillor Cox.
On the basis of the very satisfactory report from Mr. Bailey, I would like to propose that we go ahead.
Seconded. Councillor Cox, did you want to speak? I know you put your hand up first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. If you indulge me once again, I think I just worked out that the square meterage of this day room is 75 square metres. My house in Grecian Street that I lived in, my first house, was only 35 square metres. I do feel, once again, I could actually land a Cessna aircraft in this one. And I really must urge us, forthwith, without any further delay, to get some sort of restriction to this. And I do not see how, I know we haven't got anything there, but when we look at this, when the officers look at this, do they not say, shouldn't a day room comprise of a shower facility, a washing facility and an eating facility? I was almost expecting to see a gym with 3D cinema, surround sound and a couple of balconies. This is just, I know. I do think this is just a step too far, and I'd love to know where you would draw the line. At what time would you say 15 by 5 metres is too big? Is it going to be 17 metres on frontage? And 8 metres back would be too much. I'd just like to know where we're going to stop. I'm not objecting to this because everything else is fine. But I would like to know at what point you're going to say no.
It is on this very point, and Councillor Cox will probably be delighted, I hope he'd be delighted to know that we did discuss this briefly the other day. There are two ways ahead. One could either amend the Gypsy and Traveller policy to address specifically this issue on Gypsy and Traveller sites. Well, I'm not sure that is the right way. Or we could look, and I think there are a number of other issues that have come up in connection with the residential extensions policy document that we could actually look at that. Once the local plan has been finalised, it would be quite sensible to have a refresh of that policy document. So we have had a discussion, Chairman, myself and others, about how we could approach this. But it has to be done on a planned approach. Otherwise, it simply would be risky. But at the moment, it simply is on the impact, which is or in the particular location. But so if we're going to move away from that, it has to be a considered move. But discussions have already started about potentially bringing forward some change. It's just a question of which is the preferred route. And there's some discussion on that at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor English. I think we can leave it there for the time being, but I think the point is well known. Do I have a seconder for the... Councillor English. Can I have a show of hands then for this? Got that? And against? Abstentions. Okay. The application is approved, yes. Thank you. Just to... oh, yes, go on. Yes. Well, we're going on to agenda item 17, aren't we, appeals? So let's do that now.
Do you have a news update? Sorry, Chair, we're missing a person. Sorry. We've got 8 for, 0 against and 4 abstentions.
It must be...
okay, Councillor, so there'll be 5 abstentions.
There's 5 abstentions.
Did it happen? All right, you're going to have to do it again quickly. Sorry.
Can we do it again very quickly? I'm terribly sorry.
We're one person missing. Sorry.
Got a missing person.
Who, for the last application? Which, no, on the
whole thing. Okay, so four. Let's hands up again.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9. Against?
Oh, no against?
No against. Abstentions?
Abstentions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it.
There we go. Got it. Thank you.
We got it. Okay. All happy. Okay. So agenda item 17 is the appeal decisions. James, did you want to comment on something like that?
Just very quickly, because I know Councillor Prendergast will point out to me. Point 2, obviously the Great Pagehurst was a committee decision, was a committee overturn, yes. And obviously that wasn't a delegated decision. There is some error in our recording, but that has been addressed because I know it happened at the last planning committee and I've got to the bottom of why it's happening, and that has been addressed now, so shouldn't be getting those in the future. I've got nothing to add to those issues. I mean, particularly on the Great Pagehurst Farm issue. Yes, I think there was a lot of local resident support, and obviously the ward members were quite heavily involved in that issue. We engaged a consultant on that point, and they adequately defended those grounds. So hopefully members are happy on that. Overall, I would just add that I think the performance is exceptionally good moving forward. I principally say on the delegated issue. I'm not saying in terms of the member issue, but I think performance is very good at the current time across the board. And I think at the last count we were about 77% success rate on our enforcement, which is exceptionally good in the borough, and that's both for, as I said, both for delegated and in terms of the member decision. So I think it's overall a very good record. I will just add, as I said, I still haven't got my comments back from the casework unit about the inconsistency on appeals that I addressed members at the last planning committee on. I have sent a number of reminders about inconsistency on 5 years, but they still haven't come back to me. So I'll still chase, so I've got no further update at this stage. So I did say I'll update you on that matter.
Thank you. Councillor Prendergast, please.
Chairman, I wasn't at the meeting on the 6th of April, but the one prior to that, I sought from the legal officer some clarification on the member's role at planning appeals, because I did show her that I had 2 conflicting email responses regarding, and given the results that we've had this evening, I would like some clarification. Thanks.
Obviously, it was discussed at the spokesperson's meeting, wasn't it? So Clive is probably going to...
Oh, yes. Councillor English.
The political groups, the chairman, vice chairman and political group spokespersons discussed this amongst other planning issues, constitutional issues. I think it's fair to say that that the 4th proposal is slightly controversial, which relates to enforcement, but that the other 3 issues that were put forward for circulation, which includes that particular issue you've raised, have raised no concerns, and it's likely that we'll be able to proceed with a constitutional amendment proposals for the first 3 issues, which include member training and the role of members in appeals, without any difficulty. So So the clarification is about to arrive in the shape of a constitutional amendment that's being proposed. Yes. Proposed, I said, not adopted. It has to go to Mr. Borton's committee. But that draft will be hopefully circulated by group spokesmen. The fourth point requires further work, but the 3 points we've got agreement on will be circulated to members in the very near future, I believe.
Thank you, Councillor English. I would also like to add my thanks to the officers for the appeals. I think you've done a really good job. I really do, or your whole team. And it leads on to, this is the last meeting, I think, before we go through the usual round of changes and whatever. So I'd like to thank the whole committee for this year. It's been quite a bumpy ride, but personally, it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. So that may make me sound really odd, but and I'd like to thank Councillor English. We've known each other for a long time, haven't we? So, and it's been a pleasure working with you. So it's and thank you to all the officers. I'd like you to and thank you to members. It's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it, and so I wish you all the best. And let's see what happens in the new year. Thank you. Yellow pages, you can dump them.
Can we have the yellow pages, please, guys? Yeah. Do you want to take it off me now?
Sorry for strong language. I didn't mean to. I was getting ready. It was.
I wasn't getting. That's a discussion between you and the legal officer.
Anyway, but thanks for your help. Anyway, it's been good. It's been good.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, I know. You do a good job. You really do. I know it's not an easy one, so it's.
It's challenges, and it's all rules. As every job does.
Indeed. Yes. Okay, Jan? Of course I am. No. That's it. I'm just clearing up.